let's dive into Anna Karenina. You've brought a pretty hefty reading list.
Yeah.
With excerpts from all 8 parts of Tolstoy's, well, masterpiece.
It's really something.
Yeah, so get ready, because we're going to plunge, like, head first into all the drama and the societal pressures and all those big questions about meaning and life in 19th century Russia.
I think what's really cool about these excerpts is that they don't just, like skim the surface of the story.
Right.
We get to peek into the characters' souls. It's like we understand not just, what they do, but like the why. You know what I mean?
Okay, so let's start with Anna.
Okay.
From the very beginning, she's already in the thick of it.
Yeah.
This passionate affair with Vronsky. But there's a point where she calls him a stranger. And then she even says that word feels terrible to her.
Yeah, that's Tolstoy being a genius with detail.
Okay.
He's highlighting the tension inside Anna.
Right.
She feels deeply for Vronsky. She does.
Yeah.
But she can sense that things are not exactly stable. Calling him a stranger is a hint. I think it points to a disconnect. Not even just between them, but like inside Anna herself.
It's like she's being pulled in 2 different directions,
Mm-hmm.
Her own desires and then like all the expectations of her world.
Absolutely.
But I mean, Anna's not the only one going through it.
Oh, no, not at all.
We've got Levin too, totally smitten with Kitty.
And with Levin, Tolstoy's bringing in a whole other set of desires and frustrations.
Oh, yeah.
While Anna's looking for fulfillment in, passionate love, Levin wants that more, well, I guess traditional route.
Okay.
Marriage, family, a connection to the land.
Mm-hmm.
But poor guy, his first attempt with Kitty, it's a no-go.
Yeah.
She's completely captivated by Vronsky, and Levin's left feeling not good enough, out of place.
And then the way Tolstoy sets up that scene between Levin and Vronsky.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Awkward doesn't even begin to describe it.
Not at all.
They end up talking about Kitty, of all things.
It's brilliant.
Right. And it just highlights how different they are. Vronsky, he's like the poster boy for the gilded youth. Polished, confident. Levin, on the other hand.
He calls himself a savage.
Yeah, a savage.
Compared to Vronsky, and it's not just about them as individuals, though.
Right.
It's about what they represent. Vronsky, he's all about the surface, that social posturing of high society. And then you have Levin, grounded, yearning for something simpler. He's authenticity.
It's like Tolstoy is putting 2 worlds side by side.
I like it.
The allure of the city versus like the groundedness of the countryside. It's almost like he's pitting passion against being practical.
That's a good way to put it.
And speaking of passion, we have to talk about the ball. It is such a turning point for Kitty, Vronsky, and Anna.
The ball scene. Oh, it's a masterclass in subtlety.
It really is.
Tolstoy uses all that anticipation, for the mazurka, to show Kitty's vulnerability.
Right.
She really believes everything hinges on this dance with Vronsky.
She even says everything must be decided.
Exactly. She may look composed on the outside, but inside it's a whole other story.
And of course, Vronsky is just completely drawn to Anna.
Yeah.
And Kitty's left heartbroken.
Totally disillusioned.
But it's not just heartbreak for Kitty, right? This is where we start to see, like, Anna's mask slipping a little.
Absolutely.
Remember when she confesses to Dolly about spoiling Kitty's ball? Because she was jealous.
Oh, it's huge. That confession.
Yeah.
It's like a preview of all that inner turmoil that's going to haunt her through the whole novel.
Right.
She's not just this one-dimensional character, all about passion. She's capable of empathy, even remorse. It makes her, downfall so much more tragic.
Yeah. So while Anna and Vronsky are caught in this whole whirlwind of attraction, Dolly's dealing with the fallout of infidelity in her own marriage.
Right.
That scene where she confesses to Anna about Stepan Arkadyevich's betrayal. It's raw.
It really is.
It makes you wonder if she'll ever really be able to forgive him,
Yeah.
Move on.
And what's so interesting is that she confides in Anna, of all people. Anna, who's having her own affair.
It's a bit ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a testament to their bond, but it also adds this layer of, dramatic irony. Dolly's seeking comfort from someone who's basically living out her worst nightmare.
Yeah, it's a complicated dynamic, but then again, this is Tolstoy.
He's a master at that, isn't he?
Yeah, he uses it to explore all the nuances of female friendship and all those societal pressures that women had to deal with back then.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of which, we should probably talk about Anna going back to Petersburg.
Okay, yeah, it's like she and her husband start speaking in this weird, jesting tone.
Yeah.
But you can tell there's so much tension underneath.
Oh, yeah. That jesting tone is Tolstoy's way of showing us how much they've drifted apart.
Right.
They both know what's going on.
They know.
But they have to keep up appearances. Society dictates it.
It's like they're both putting on a performance,
Yeah.
playing roles they don't believe in anymore.
Exactly. And while all this is going on with Anna in the city, Levin's finding comfort somewhere completely different, the farm.
It's like Tolstoy is showing us two completely different paths.
Right. He's brilliant at that.
Yeah. He juxtaposes Anna's emotional roller coaster with Levin's very grounded existence. Makes you think about the different ways we look for fulfillment.
Absolutely. For Levin, it's not about all those fancy social events.
No.
It's about physically working the land, that
Yeah.
connection to nature. He's fascinated by it.
He even gets philosophical about mowing the fields.
He does. Work and purpose. That's where he finds meaning.
It's like he finds this like spiritual grounding in the simplicity of it all, which is, well, the complete opposite of Anna and her pursuit of passionate love.
Such a great contrast. And then, despite her wanting to avoid society, Anna gets pulled back in.
She can't resist, can she?
So it's like she finds a certain joy in those encounters with Vronsky, even though she knows it's not right.
Yeah, you can see that joy, like in the writing.
It speaks to the power of social validation.
Oh, yeah.
Especially for someone like Anna, who's used to being the center of attention.
Right.
But it also shows us how dangerous it can be to look for happiness outside of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Tolstoy seems to be saying that true happiness comes from within.
And as Anna's trying to figure all this out, Levin's facing his own moral dilemma.
Yeah.
He's attracted to a married woman, but he still has feelings for Kitty.
It's a bit hypocritical, considering how he judged Vronsky.
Right.
It just goes to show how complex we are. Even Levin, with all his high morals, he's not immune to temptation.
No one.
Exactly. This whole inner conflict, it exposes the hypocrisy in society, the
Yeah.
difference between how we're supposed to act and how we actually feel.
It's a good reminder that even the best of us make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And as all that's going on, Dolly and Stepan Arkadyevich are trying to patch things up after his infidelity. But it feels so fragile.
It does. Dolly keeps having these suspicions.
Yeah?
Like she's trying to push them down, but they keep coming back, tormenting her. It's like Tolstoy is saying, hey, even when you choose to forgive, the past doesn't just disappear.
And it makes you wonder if it's even possible to truly rebuild trust once it's broken.
Such a good point. It takes time. Healing does. And trust, oh, once that's broken, it's not so easy to put back together.
Not easy at all. And while Dolly's trying to figure that out, Anna's situation, well, it's getting more and more complicated. Vronsky's not letting up. He's pushing her to make a decision.
He really is.
And then he says, friends, we shall never be, you know that yourself, whether we shall be the happiest or the wretchedest of people. That's in your hands.
That line is like a punch to the gut.
It really is.
It shows us how high the stakes are. They're a fair, and it all comes down to Anna. Vronsky's giving her two choices: blissful happiness or complete and utter misery.
And the burden of choice rests solely on her shoulders.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And while she's dealing with all of that, Levin, he's on an emotional roller coaster of his own.
He is. First, the rejection from Kitty. Then they get back together and he's over the moon. But then, marriage.
Tolstoy gets it. Marriage. He doesn't sugarcoat it.
Not at all.
There's going to be conflict, even between people who are crazy about each other.
Yeah, like when Levin gets mad at Kitty over something so small.
And it's like, what? But it shows us his insecurities, how tough it is to be in a real relationship.
Definitely. It's a far cry from how he imagined it all would be. But it's through all the little fights and stuff that he starts to understand what it really means to be partners.
Exactly. It's not just about the romance. It's about compromise, forgiveness. It's about figuring out what each other needs, and wanting to give it.
And while he's doing all that, his brother Nikolai gets sick. And Levin has to face death head on. It really throws him into an existential crisis.
He starts asking all the big questions: faith, death, the meaning of life.
And you can see Tolstoy's own spiritual struggles reflected in Levin, that search for faith.
He wants to believe, but he has so many doubts.
It's something a lot of people go through, don't you think? Trying to find meaning in life.
Oh, for sure. And while Levin's searching for answers, Anna's world starts falling apart because of what society thinks.
Society's not letting her off easy.
Not at all. And this is where you see Tolstoy pointing a finger at hypocrisy.
Okay, yeah.
Vronsky, his reputation's pretty much intact. But Anna, she's ostracized, condemned.
Just for having an affair.
Pretty much. It shows how unfairly women were judged back then, especially when it came to, well, love and sex.
It's like they wanted to punish her for daring to step out of line.
Yeah, and all that judgment takes its toll.
You can see it wearing her down.
She's isolated, emotionally, cut off from everyone she knew.
It's a good reminder that societal pressures could really affect you, especially when you're already struggling with yourself. So while Anna's dealing with all of that, Levin's still searching for meaning. But now he's not focusing so much on intellectual stuff.
Right. It's like he realizes that books and theories can only get you so far.
hmm
He finds peace in living, working on the farm, his family, being in nature.
He really finds peace in the simple things, which is, totally different from Anna chasing happiness with Vronsky.
And that's where things start to go south for them, the affair.
The foundation starts to crack.
Exactly. Tolstoy is showing us that passion, even though it's intense and amazing at first, it's not always enough.
Especially when it becomes the only thing you care about.
Right. Anna relies on Vronsky for her happiness. She forgets about herself, her own dreams. And with society against her, she loses herself completely.
It's a reminder that you can't be truly happy if you depend on someone else for it.
So true. You have to be happy with yourself first. And as things get worse for Anna, her husband, Alexei Alexandrovich, he's trying to figure out how he feels about everything.
He's been betrayed. You can understand why he'd be angry.
Absolutely. And at first he wants revenge, wounded pride, societal expectations, all that. But then something changes.
What do you mean?
He forgives Anna. He finds a way to justify it through his religion.
It's like he's fighting with himself. On one hand, he wants to hurt her back, but on the other, he's capable of compassion.
It's complicated.
It is. It makes you think about forgiveness. Right. Is it always selfless? Or is it a way to feel morally superior?
That's Tolstoy for you. Always making us think.
He creates characters that are so complex, so real.
And as all of that's going on, Kitty's starting a new chapter in her life.
She's recovered from her illness.
And her perspective on everything has changed.
She's grown from it.
Exactly. It shows how resilient we can be, how we can heal and learn even after heartbreak.
It's definitely a sign of hope, especially with everything that's happening with Anna. And then we have Levin and Sergei Ivanovich arguing about the peasants and education.
That's classic Tolstoy, critiquing the intellectual elite.
Levin, he actually knows what life is like in the countryside. He thinks Sergei Ivanovich's theories are out of touch.
It's a debate that's still relevant today. Theories versus reality.
Yeah. Levin's trying to say, hey, if you really want to help people, you need to understand their lives.
And while they're arguing, Anna's past is catching up to her.
It always does, doesn't it?
It does. Society's not letting her forget. She's more and more isolated.
And it's just pushing her deeper into despair.
Yeah. It's like the weight of all that judgment is crushing her.
It's tough to watch. She's surrounded by all this luxury, but she's completely alone. It makes you wonder, is this what happens when you go against society? Like, can you ever really be happy if you're always fighting the world?
Tolstoy really digs into that, doesn't he? Those big questions.
Yeah.
He doesn't give you easy answers, but he wants you to see the struggle. What you want versus what society tells you should want.
Yeah. It's like a warning. Anna's story. What can happen when you chase happiness outside the lines?
Exactly. And as her story gets darker, you see Levin finding a different kind of happiness. He's still asking those big questions about faith and purpose, but he's not just stuck in his head anymore.
Right.
He turns to nature, to his farm, his family.
It's like he finds a connection to something bigger than himself.
Yeah. And that's where Tolstoy's own beliefs come in. He really thought that experiencing life was more important than just thinking about it.
So Levin finds peace not by thinking, but by doing, by living.
Exactly. He finds meaning in the everyday stuff, taking care of his land, loving his family. And it's the opposite of Anna putting all her eggs in one basket in that intense love with Vronsky.
And as the relationship falls apart, you see how love can be a double-edged sword.
Yeah. Passion can be intoxicating, but it can also blind you.
And destroy you.
Yeah, if it's the only thing you live for.
So Anna's depending on Vronsky to make her happy. And that's...
It's a recipe for disaster. She loses herself, her own identity.
And with everyone judging her,
Yeah.
it just pushes her further down.
Yeah. It's a reminder that we have to find our own happiness.
Not rely on someone else to give it to us.
Right. And in the last part of the book, Anna gets more and more desperate.
You can really feel it in the writing.
It's like she's losing her grip on reality. She's so paranoid, so alone. It's heartbreaking. And then she makes that decision. The one that everyone remembers.
Her suicide. It's hard to read, but it's also like a challenge. What does it mean?
Yeah, it's complicated. Some people think she just gave up. Others think it was her way of saying, screw you to society.
Tolstoy was brilliant. He doesn't tell you how to interpret it. He leaves you thinking.
which is what makes him such a great writer.
And as Anna's story ends, you're left comparing her to Levin.
Right.
He goes through all these struggles and comes out the other side finding peace. Anna ends up alone and broken.
It's a powerful reminder that our choices matter. They affect us and everyone around us. And Tolstoy makes you think about your own life, your values, what you want.
He doesn't shy away from the messiness of life, and he makes you ask, what does it mean to be truly free? Do you follow the rules, or do you make your own way?
Big questions.
Big questions. And they're still relevant today. That's the power of a book like Anna Karenina. It makes you think, it makes you feel, it makes you understand yourself a little bit better. It's been amazing diving into this with you. And for everyone listening, I hope this deep dive inspires you to keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and keep diving deep into whatever sparks your curiosity. Thanks for joining us.